We are live with Myriacast episode 32. And today we've just got game news that we're going to discuss, as well as possibly switching over and playing Genshin Impact, because we don't really have a ton of other things to talk about this week. We'll mention a few things that happened last week, and there's also some other stuff that we'll talk about regarding some games that got released and things like that, games that are upcoming. So I'm Otto. I'm with Spoon. Hi, Spoon.
Hey.
And like I said, we might just talk mostly about game news for the start, and then we'll switch over to Genshin Impact. So let me go through my list of items here. I'm just going to switch some screens around so that we can get a good look at this, and then we'll start right here for today. So moving over to our other awesome production slide here. I'm gonna save the introduction actually for later, but just follow our YouTube and Twitters and stuff. We've gone through it a lot. Just be sure to follow us and support us. That's all I'm gonna say for this one, because I want to get right into this. Okay, so the first thing I've got here, I'm gonna zoom in. Oh god, this happened I guess today, because I saw the news for it this morning. I talked about this game in late May, early June. I mentioned that something had happened with this game. This was the game that was like a BR type of game, or I think it was like an arena shooter also. It had like multiple different modes. Yeah, this officially got shut down today. It was in beta. They had released it and then unreleased it in June, and then officially pulled the plug today. So this game Crucible is officially done. Only reason I'm really mentioning it is because this is an Amazon Studios game. It's like one of the first ones they've made, and they just ended up stopping all development of the game. Because I'm going to sort of highlight this here. November 9th, servers will officially go down. That's why people saw this. They had like a blog post regarding this. So
That's a very short lifespan for a game, like 6 months. And I guess it never. I know it never really officially released. Like it never got out of beta, pretty much, right? So
yeah, this thing pretty much it went out of beta for about 2 weeks and then went back into beta. I think that's what happened, or maybe it was a month, but it was really short lived. I saw like 2 streams of it. It doesn't look exciting. It just didn't look exciting. And I was like, okay, move on. But again, the only reason that it's worth note is because this is an Amazon Studios game, and people figured it might have a chance with some kind of backing of this size, and nope. They just pulled the plug within about, what was that, like 4 months after they went back into closed beta, because they did it in late May, early June. So yeah, about 4 months. So if you like the game, I'm sorry, but honestly, I didn't know many people who knew about this game or even played it. So just want to sort of highlight that. Any other things you wanted to mention here before I move on? I'm actually going to jump over to FIFA 21 Legacy Edition on Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I never didn't play it at all. I mean, I'd heard about it. I know you talked about it, and I had heard about it, but I don't. I feel like they're trying to break into a market that is oversaturated already. You know, they're trying to make a game that, people already have games in that genre that they like. Why would they try this new one out when they've already spent hundreds of dollars on Fortnite or Call of Duty Battle Royale or Apex or like Fall Guys? I guess that's pretty different, but it's still a battle royale, I guess.
It's still considered a battle royale, yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for a shooter battle royale, there are just far more options that are already there and entrenched. And yeah, I feel like if Amazon wants to I feel like they need to branch out a little bit and make something a little more unique, as opposed to just diving into markets that are already oversaturated. because
it's over. It's not just saturated. It's situated. Like if you want to
yeah,
play a BR game, there's like 3 games that I can think of that people are going to go to just immediately. If you're going to play, a MOBA game, like another example, kind of older example in this case, but there's like 2 games that you'll probably be playing, maybe 2 or 3. There's like, it's not just even saturated, it's just situated. Like people know what to play at this point. When somebody comes in, you got to have something really special. Like Fall Guys, I think is unique enough where people said, okay, this is a concept that's so different from our FPS BR games that it's interesting.
yeah,
This just seems like it's an arena BR game that both those markets are arena shooters aren't the same way to a certain extent, but like BR games, there's like 3. Why are you trying to jump into that one? You got to have something really special and unique to make a difference there.
I mean, arena hero shooters, it's pretty much Overwatch. Like that,
Yep.
it's entrenched is
It's
Overwatch. You're not gonna topple Overwatch. I'm sorry.
you
Like
got to have something really different. So because Overwatch has got on lockdown that specific type of arena shooter. So I don't know. We'll see. That and I guess Valorant's more like CS:GO, but I guess you could consider that a arena shooter to some extent.
yeah,
Um,
it's a combo.
yeah, it's a bit of a combo. So let's move on from that to the something I think just funnier. You had sort of shown this to me. This is an IGN video of FIFA 21 Legacy Edition on Switch. I'm not going to play the review, to be honest with you, but there are a couple of different things I wanted to highlight right here. This screenshot here, which is on the YouTube, says specifically gameplay. FIFA 21 Legacy Edition will feature the same gameplay innovation from FIFA 20 without any new development or significant enhancements. Okay?
They can take the word innovation out of that statement, but
Correct.
you know,
And I believe that this is the other one, FIFA 20 Legacy Edition, the previous iteration, features the same gameplay innovation from FIFA 19 without any new development or significant enhancements. That means that if you buy FIFA 21, you have bought FIFA 19. And
for
vice
Switch,
versa.
specifically for Switch.
Specifically for Switch. Because they just don't seem to care about Switch. It's just like, not that these games really go too heavily into innovation as it is. I mean, they make tweaks here and there and roster updates. But this is like a $50 game. Or $45, something like that.
Yeah, it's $49.99 dollars. I think it was
Gross.
45 pound. I think that was UK, so it was pounds.
Okay.
So it's a little cheaper in pounds, but I think pounds is a stronger currency than dollars. I don't know what the
That's-
conversion rate is, but
That's still gross. That offends me. I just can't. I mean, I was gonna say I can't imagine doing it, but I can actually. So it's just
EA.
it's just lazy and it's easy, and people are gonna buy it. I don't know why they would, but maybe they just aren't reading the fine print, I think is what's happening. So
this
they
game looks
buy-
like crap. By the way, looking at this still of this video, this
Oh,
game
yeah.
just looks awful. Like the graphics
It's-
just look awful.
it doesn't look good because it's on Switch. Even on the other consoles, I would say it's not like stupendous, but it's far better than on Switch. Like on Switch, it's just bad. It just does not look good on Switch. It really doesn't. Like I'm just looking at the players and things like that. So this IGN video, they gave it like a 2, I think.
Yep, 2 out of 10.
Yeah, they gave it a 2, which honestly, I would have given it a 1. It's just like you just quite literally. This is a quite literal copy and paste. I know we talk about some of the other stuff where like, oh, X game is a copy and paste of this one, and it's a bit, embellished, right? This is a copy and paste. It's a copy and paste. This is a copy and
Yeah.
paste. So this
They
is just like,
actually copy and pasted the game from 19 to 20 and then 20 to 21. So they're all the same with a roster update. And the IGN reviewer did the same thing. He copy and pasted his review from last year. If you look at the written review, He actually just copy and
Oh,
pasted
good.
it from last year. He didn't even update in like the headline or the first sentence. He didn't even update the like 19 versus 20 or 20 versus 21. He just left it as it was from
Yep.
last year.
Good. It's just like, why would you need to? It's the same. You don't need to do anything.
He lowered the score 2 points though. He had a 4 last year, even a 2 this year
Oh,
because it was
good.
a double copy and paste
Yeah.
basically 2 years
Oh,
in a row.
exactly.
So yeah, this is. I mean, it's EA. I'm not surprised. This is the just epitome of scumbag sports games. This is what we all complain about sports games. Where okay, they don't change that much year to year, but they usually add like one new mode or like one thing here or there. Usually
Mm,
something at this point that they can monetize and whatever. But
right.
usually they add something, or at least they tout that like, oh, we did this for defense and we did this, and there's this new stick command where you can do end zone celebrations or whatever the heck their innovations are. Probably things that they took out in previous games that you forgot about and they put back in. Who knows?
Right.
But either way, on the usual versions of these sports games, they at least pretend that they add new things. This one is actually a straight copy paste job with a roster update.
Mm.
So yeah, this is offensive to the highest degree.
Oh no, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But I'm not surprised at all about all this junk. So let's see here. What's the next thing we want to put up on here? Sorry, I'm trying to check something super fast. Okay. So let's see here. I've got on next thing here. We talked about this a little bit last week. Um, Previously, I wish I had the article for it. Now that I'm thinking about it, the CD Projekt Red had mentioned they wouldn't do crunch for Cyberpunk 2077, and long story short, they did. They're going to require crunch ahead of the November launch. You mentioned the game went gold last week, so there is a version of it that's going into production right now,
Yep.
and but they're still going to be working on obviously day one patches and things like that. So yeah, they said they wouldn't do crunch and they did. Thoughts? By the way, from what I've seen, the community was quite upset that this occurred.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. This like kill crunch thing that the internet has going right now is, I mean, I get it, and obviously you don't want to crunch too hard, but it's a reality in the
Right.
entertainment industry. I'm sorry to tell you, deadlines at some point have to be met. The game has to come out. They need to make a profit.
Yeah.
They have to pay their developers, the people who work on the game. Um, Obviously, you don't want to see it to a huge degree. And obviously, in this case, where CD Projekt basically promised, or at least said before, that, hey, we're not going to do crunch, and then they go back on it, that's kind of a bad look.
Yeah.
But I think eliminating crunch altogether is a very unrealistic prospect, at least at this juncture. Um,
Yeah. So for me, first of all, CD Projekt Red is the company that can do no wrong, and they did something wrong here. So of course, people are going to be upset because they're like, wait, CD Projekt Red doesn't typically do things like this where they make a statement that is taken as a promise and then admit and say, okay, well, yeah, we said that, but that's not going to be possible. We've already delayed this game multiple times. We're going to have to implement this kind of, I would say, work structure to make sure that this game gets out, given our delayed time frame that we've made multiple times. So I think, I think like crunch in general has become I guess like I don't know if I want to say necessary, but it's become something that's used in the game industry because you have these mandated windows to get things released because people, not just the developers who are making the game, like other sections of like the publishers and the people who are trying to promote the game, they want to have a specific schedule as well. And so when delays happen, that it messes up their schedule too. So I can get the concept of, okay, look, we have this schedule set in place. We need to push this out in a state that's not just playable, but what we've told people it's going to be. That being said, yeah, just don't promise things. Just don't. You don't have to promise things. I don't understand why these not just CD Projekt Red. I don't understand why companies like, for example, EA, they should never promise anything. Anytime they say we promise no loot boxes, they shouldn't even say it. I remember Bethesda said for Fallout 76 they promised something. Just don't promise anything. You have a tendency to break your promises or do things that are a bit underhanded because you just know you can, because you're not really going to be punished for it. I don't think CD Projekt Red's going to be, theoretically punished for anything in the sense that, oh, I'm not going to buy the game now. That's not going to happen, right? People are still going to buy this game. But
Yeah, this is like the most anticipated release of the year, probably for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I won't say everyone, because we had some other, like FF7R was earlier this year, is probably a pretty big one for a lot of people. But I think for the vast majority of people, especially here in the West, Cyberpunk is probably the biggest release of the year, or the most anticipated at least.
I think it absolutely is, and that's why people are going to be upset, but they're not going to really change. It's not going to change their buying decision, which you can sort of take any way you want. So I think just don't promise things. Just don't. I see the appeal of wanting to promise something and follow through, and it makes you look good. But guess what? What's the other side? CD Projekt Red. You already look really good. You don't have to promise anything.
Yeah.
You could really not have. You don't have to promise anything at this point because it's almost, it's just like people just expect all these things anyway, and you don't have to make a promise about it because it's just like, why did you need to promise it? That's what I don't understand. Is like, why did you have to promise that? Were people thinking about that while you were making the game? Was that like a big selling point to people? Were like, okay, if they implement Crunch, though, I'm out. I got to imagine not many people were thinking that. If you are thinking that, sounds good, but you're not. I honestly don't believe many players of games think about those things when they make buying decisions. But they'll complain about it when they see it. But that won't impact their buying decision.
Oh yeah, no, they'll go off on Twitter about it, but
yeah, Twitter. Oh god,
it's all bark, no bite. So
that's all Twitter is. Twitter is just a bunch of bark. People who think they're right about things, and you're just like, you're just not right about this. Or they're 13 and they feel like, oh well, I'm 13 now, so I can say opinions on the internet, and I think they're right. It's like, no, they're not. These are not good opinions. You should keep them to yourself. So it's just, I don't know. It's just like people complain about it, but at the same time, we complain about a lot of things, and yet it doesn't actually impact buying decisions that much. I would say in many cases it really doesn't. Save a few EA games and like maybe Bethesda's Fallout 76, things like that, where it's just so egregious. Anything else?
On this, no, not specifically.
Okay. So the next two things, we'll save the thing that you put on the list last on here. I just wanted to sort of mention this again. I've been watching more of Baldur's Gate 3. We actually had a D&D episode. It was like our second episode, if I recall correctly. We talked about Dungeons & Dragons. I
think it was number one. I think
was it number one?
Yeah, I do.
See, I can't remember. But if it's number one, okay. So one of the first two, I'll just take your word for it. It's number one. This game really is Dungeons & Dragons, the video game. I think it's buggy, but at the same time, if they can fix some of these things, I am considering getting this week. I'm still kind of like seeing how buggy it is. I've seen some streams of it. People that have said this game has quite a few, and I
I mean,
think I think that's obviously something that
it,
I know that would happen with early access. So
yeah, it's not being advertised as full release. It's early access, and
right,
it's going to be an early access for a while, from what I hear.
right.
So yeah,
But it seems something that could be kind of fun. I know it's only one chapter of the game, so to speak, but I've heard it's like 20 to 25 hours. It's something too where it's like, okay, but this game could change. I only got this article up because this game could change to a point where your playthrough that you play on this version of the game may just not even work the same way. You may want to just even consider replaying the game again once it goes either full release or the next chapters come out. Because I feel like I've heard there's 3 chapters. There's one, this one, and then there's like two more, I think. But the game looks it looks good. I only wanted to bring this up because it's out, and I've seen streamers that I follow play it and seem to enjoy it, and it does look, it really does look like D&D the video game. It seems fun, so just wanted to sort of
yeah, it is.
mention
They
that as
even like
something I think I'm going to get this week.
yeah, they even use, D&D stats and spells, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, make a persuasion check."
Yep.
And then like a d20 shows up on the screen, and it rolls a d20 for you and says,
Mm-hmm.
you need to beat like a 10 or whatever.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
and
It.
you have your modifier based on your character, obviously,
Yep.
whether you know.
You make saves in the game. I saw somebody try and like run through Greece, constantly making saves every time they moved a certain amount. That was really funny. He just kept slipping all over the place. And it just looks fun. I think it's a good game to play with a couple people too. If you've got people to play with, this could be really fun to play with them for a bit. I'm not saying you play with them the whole time you play, but this feels like a pretty fun group game because I was watching somebody play it with a group of friends, and it seemed really interesting and kind of funny when you had a group. And like instead of bringing the default party members, you can actually bring just your group of
Okay,
friends.
you can play co-op.
You
That's
just play
interesting.
co-op. Yeah, you just play co-op. Divinity games all have co-op, from what I've seen. The ones that I've played, Divinity 2 had co-op. You just you just had a co-op file with some friends. It's interesting. Everybody just sort of gets free reign. In this case, that's probably not a good idea because if you go on your own in a D&D dungeon, I can't imagine you'll survive very long. But it's something that you can do. You can go with a couple friends, play on the same file with them. I'm not sure if you can take that co-op file solo after that, but it is like it's a game that you can do it, and I think it's a good game to do co-op. It seems fun to do with a couple friends. So just want to mention it because it did come out last week, and I talked about it, and I think I am going to get it this week, and it looks super fun. Maybe something I can play on like the Myriathon stream once in a while because it's cool. Okay, I've got one last thing here that you put on here. I'm gonna have you talk about this one a bit more. I haven't played any Ni no Kuni games, so
Yeah, so I saw this headline today again. I apparently level 5, which is the, I want to say, publisher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it says publisher developer.
is not gonna continue to publish in at least North America. I guess it wasn't profitable for them with Ni no Kuni. They also published the Yokai Watch games, which I know weren't that popular here, but they are in Japan. Um, it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the Ni no Kuni series. I did play the first one, and I did play the second one as well. And I didn't love either of them, but they're fun JRPGs. They're solid. They didn't blow me out of the water or anything, but they were good. Um, cool art style. Kind of cute, innocent storytelling. You know, just solid JRPGs that were fun. Kind of sad to see them go. Yeah, apparently they're working on a Ni no Kuni
Mm-hmm.
3 right
Mm-hmm.
now,
Yep, I
but
see that.
with this shutdown, I think it's very unlikely that we'll get it over here.
Yeah.
So
Well, there you go. because they use the same art style as Studio Ghibli. That's where I knew it from. They use
Yep.
that same art style. So, yeah, too bad. I mean, if it's, I thought it looked interesting when it first came out. The first title in the series came out. I thought it was interesting. I never played it, but I thought it was interesting. I just like the art style. So, yeah, you never want to see something like this where, in particular, with like just employees being laid off. I mean, that's obviously a negative. So, let's see. I don't have anything else on the news docket. Is there anything else I'm missing, or we
Uh,
should be mentioning?
I mean, there was some buzz going around about the Avengers,
Oh yes, the Avengers thing. That's right. Let
the
me
player
see if I can
base
find
kind
it.
of declining for that game, and
See if
there's
I can
really
find
not
it.
much interesting as far as loot or end game content goes in the game,
Yep,
and
I've
they
got
haven't
an article
updated
on it
it
now.
in a while.
So yes, so the Steam charts for this, and I can pull up Steam charts. Marvel's Avengers. So the Steam charts for this game, people were noting that the player base of this title was dwindling. I'm just going to sort of highlight. I think this game was released September 4th or
First
5th.
September 1st, I think.
I thought that was like an unofficial if you pre-ordered the bit. It doesn't matter. That's when it came out for people who I think pre-ordered. But um, you'll notice here that the player base peaked at 28K. So probably when it first released, I can't get 3 months. But let me see. You said September 1st, right? So let's type in September 1st. Okay. So there's that peak player base of September 5th. I'm getting September 5th. It's not letting me do first.
Okay,
So
whatever.
September 6th, 5th, and 6th, there's the peak. You'll notice a trend. I feel like this is kind of normal for a lot of games, though, where it starts to trend downward. But this game trended downward quite quickly. This is tracking peak player base, keep in mind. So 28K is the all time peak. But you'll notice that peak player base a week after release was about 14K. And now let's sort of fast forward a month after release. So that would be October 1st and 5th, something like that. The peak player base dropped to 2,400. And now it did dwindle. I think it did dwindle around like 1.5K somewhere here. Well, here is yesterday. It's at 1.7K. This game is just not trending in the right direction for a game like this. This is one of those live service games. These games need content all the time. And you need good content. You can't just have like a very small thing happen. It doesn't necessarily bring the whole player base back. You got to have real content almost every month. The fact that there hasn't been something for this game in the last month that has added significant content to this game is not a good sign, in my opinion. That's
Well, and
I. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I I think that's the problem we see a lot of times with these live service games is they come out unfinished and incomplete. Like with this game especially, I heard the story was like okay, but there was a pretty huge lack of like interesting end game content
Yep.
to do. And apparently, with the player base dwindling, it's the in-game content's supposed to be around doing like co-op with people and doing these, high-level missions and whatever. Again, I haven't played the game, I don't really know how it works, and it's apparently taking quite a long time to find a match now,
Yes.
to do missions.
The way the matchmaking system, I think you know this at this point. You've probably you watched some videos on it. The matchmaking system. The way it works currently is when you matchmake, it has to find unique characters. It's not trying to find duplicates, and that's a huge issue.
Yeah, you're not allowed to play. The same hero is not allowed to be in the same match. Basically, two
Correct.
players can't play the same hero. Whether doesn't matter who it is: Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hulk, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently the matchmaking times are getting long. There was kind of a lack of content in the first place, and they haven't really added anything new. I think there's supposed to be like some sort of Hawkeye. I know Hawkeye's coming out
Yeah. Two
some point
Hawkeyes are coming out. Yeah.
soonish, but And apparently, the other thing with this game is like not that they ever adhere to these, but this game doesn't even have a roadmap. Like,
Oh yeah, no, there's no roadmap. Yeah,
I feel like they kind of need one. And again, I mean, usually with these roadmaps, they don't really adhere to them. But at least
correct.
if the players had an idea of like what was coming and when it was coming, they would have an idea of like,
Right.
okay, well, I can play up to this point, and then maybe I'll take a break for a bit. But when this patch comes out, I'm pretty excited for that. So we'll come back and I will play it again when
Right.
whatever that thing comes out.
Um,
Um,
yeah, because for games like, for example, Destiny has like various different events that occur, but it's not like they're major events, right? They the major event that I recall was previously was like a solar event. You got like this armor and you had to level up your solar armor, and that lasted a good long while. It was like a monthly event, so it gave you a reason to grind out the armor because it was a unique armor set for you. So like stuff like that is valuable. Marvel's Avengers can't do that though because armor is not unique. So your character doesn't change based on your armor. It's like a cosmetic skin, which is already poo poo. See, they can't do that. But they need to have they needed to have an event by now, some kind of event where people can grind for at least like a week or two. I mean, that's what they need to do. And the thing is that would last longer because they'd probably want to grind multiple characters for that. That's what people would want to do. The major issue here is, and I can just tell by the dwindling player base, is there's a couple things happening here. Either people just don't like this game, which could be a relevant factor. People are finished with the content that quickly, which I'm not surprised at if that's the case. So if we're looking at this, I imagine once it probably hit, September 28th, you'll see the number went under 5K. This is probably when people will said, okay, I'm done with all the content. I'm moving on. And all these other players are the hardcore players that are left that are just like, I'm gonna grind this regardless
just
for
just gonna grind it out,
for
dude.
the till the end of time. I mean, most people, my guess is most people grinded like two characters, and then there's the people that are grinding every character. That's probably what's left of the player base. Also, this game's story was like 10 hours. Apparently, it was like really short, and
Yeah, apparently.
there were only like three major villains in the game. There was, or I guess boss villains. There was Abomination, which is just evil. Let's just call it Evil Hulk for the sake of simplicity. Taskmaster, and a character's name is like Modoc. Basically, he's big brained. Okay, he's the big brain. So three of all the Marvel universe, they had three in there. Like, are you kidding me? You have the entire Marvel license to use, and it was three. That is actually sad to me. Like, that's pathetic, in my opinion. That's actually pathetic. It's you're a game that's supposed to be Marvel's Avengers. You have you can play as any Marvel character, and you only have three major villains in the game that are named villains. That's kind of sad. I can't think of another good example, but that's like Star Wars, a Star Wars title not taking advantage of the Star Wars universe and all the information that they have there. I mean, in this case, because it's like a comic book video game, there's like, it's just like, how can you not take advantage of all those Marvel villains and not want to use as many as you can to your benefit? It's just like, really, just three? That's all you could come up with? I can't. Maybe they're saving them for like raids or something, but that's really bad. Also, they said Spider-Man was supposed to be a PlayStation exclusive. Is that happening? Did that already happen, or is that like coming out later? I'm so
I have
confused.
no
with
idea.
That.
I have no idea. I mean, I haven't really paid that much attention to this game and I haven't played it, so I don't know. I don't know if Spider-Man's in the game or not. I've not seen any gameplay of him, but I haven't.
I don't think he
specifically looked.
is.
I haven't looked for it either.
So it's just like, okay, here's Spider-Man. We'll give him to you at some point. PS people. It's like, okay, but
Yeah, this game, seems to suffer from a lot of the same issues that we keep seeing with these live service games. Despite this game getting delayed also multiple times, it came out again, kind of seems like severely undercooked and could have used another 6 months to a year. Which again, they're being published. This one's published by Square Enix, so there's a big daddy company up there that's like, all right, probably at some point they're like, yeah, you just got to push this out. Like
you just gotta get it out.
we need the revenue for, you know,
end of year earnings or
yeah.
something like that. Who knows really?
So
But yeah, this you can
yeah,
this.
I mean, yeah, this game probably could have used another 6 months at least, to
I
iron
think it
out
did.
iron out some of the bugs and just add more content to the game, because it just seems, yeah, it just seems like there wasn't enough content there, and I don't, again, they don't seem to have a roadmap or a plan, at least that they've shared with anyone in place. And yeah, this game is just, it's just dwindling basically. I mean, people will probably come back when the major patches come out, but they
That
don't really know when that is.
that's always the case with games. Even games that like are even doing even worse than this one. A big patch hits or a DLC hits, and people come back. But they come back. But the question is like, are they going to stay? Because to be fair, Destiny 2 had a pretty poor release, but they've mitigated that poor release because they added a bunch of content. They improved the game, obviously, and now there's just tons of people playing that. This game's got to really turn it around, because right now it's trending in a direction where it's just like, I feel like if this goes on for a couple months and we're not seeing any major content, or major content drops in the Steam charts in particular are not increasing in the right direction, how long is Square Enix going to support this? Right? Like, do they really want to continue to support this? Is the question. And it's just, yeah, they could just pull the plug and that's it. That stuff happens, and that's what I'm worried about. It's just like, okay, well, we tried for about 6 months, time to pull it, because it's too
Yep.
much of an investment, which it could be. I mean, really, it could be, especially using the license and things like that. Maybe it's just too much of an investment. I don't know. Um, anyway, any other things besides Marvel's Avengers being in a very very important point in its life cycle?
Nope, I think that's all I saw as far as news went for this week.
Okay, so we talked about this earlier. We'll call this the game news section of the podcast. We're going to do something a little bit different for these. I didn't mention this before, so I didn't go through like a very big introduction. We're going to call this the conclusion of the game news part of the podcast. So, for the sake of YouTube, this is going to end this specific video, and we're going to have another video, more like a part 2 or a different play. We're just playing part, and that'll be a separate video that will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and things like that. So for this section of our video for game news, that's going to do it for this. And just to sort of get the light conclusion out of the way, we'll have a second video up for that, and that'll just be the Genshin Impact gameplay part of the podcast. So be sure to
Oh,
follow the YouTube and such.
we're gonna talk about Genshin a bit first, right?
Sure, for sure. And that'll be that's going to be separate. So
Okay.
we're going to say game news section is ending here, and we'll have the other section of stuff happening in the other video. So please be sure to follow the YouTube and the Twitter and such, and hopefully you'll jump over to that video.